Hi, baby. Hi, handsomes. Good morning.
Oh, I'm gonna watch that tail.
Handsomes, going to sit right there. Would you like to say something? Huh? No? Okay. Good afternoon, you guys. Lighting's a little bit different. My ring light decided to stop working, so I'm going to get a new one. Bear with me for today. I do apologize. For today's video, y'all, we are diving into the Conjuring series. Now, it's not going to be the Conjuring universe. We'll get into it eventually because duh. But just for this month, it's the perfect amount of weeks. We'll be able to dive into this. And I feel like the Conjuring universe as a whole is very dense. So I think it'd be better for us to kind of dissect it in parts. And what better way to start off with what started it all, The Conjuring in 2013. Now I remember going and seeing this one in theaters when it came out. It was rated R, but there's no extreme violence, there's no gore, there's no nudity, no swearing even. It's kind of groundbreaking in the fact that it has none of that and it still was rated R just for sheer terror. Essentially, I love that. And I remember going and seeing it multiple times when it came out. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those movies that just no matter who you were, it scared the shit out of you. However, as the Conjuring series specifically carried on, I think it definitely changed. And what better way to dive into and talk about the Conjuring series in general, but especially the newest one, The Conjuring Last Rites. So we'll talk about how, the franchise began, where it went, and dive into, I guess, some of the lore as well. Now I have quite a few books here in front of me. For today, I think we'll really just kind of stick to these three. Once we dive into, we will do a... Hi, Bubbles. Hello, handsome. We will do a Hollywood versus reality on this as well during the last week, probably before the last episode. And we will dive into... Hi, it's just books, nothing for you. I know you're so smart. We'll dive into some of the writings from the Warrens. However, we're going to pair that with real life accounts from the actual Perron family. And we will talk about the criticism that the Warrens faced as well. I do think a lot of their work is highly speculative at best. So we will talk about it. Don't worry. But I think the Conjuring films are enjoyable if you separate them from the real life controversy of it all. They're great horror movies, especially the first one. It's a modern classic to me. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into this series, you guys. I'm gonna be honest, the first two is really it for me. The first two are just chef's kiss, everything you want from a James Wan movie. And then the others, it was just it felt more like trying to get the audience to really like Ed and Lorraine, because by that time already, all the tea was out there. And especially with Lorraine's kind of real life mental decline in the last few years of her life. Just the fact that all of these artifacts were in her home, which is where they gave tours and the museum was. Whether you believe in it or not, someone who does heavily believe in it, having those things in their home, it can't be good for the health, can't be good for up here. And there was even TikTok controversy as well, I know, about the Perron home. It's no longer the Perrons, obviously. However, it is owned and ran it was, as a museum, because it is the Conjuring house. I believe it was a bed and breakfast too. It's a gorgeous little farmhouse, very old though. And the owner, with all due respect, kind of went batshit insane online. And then people started speculating oh, it's the house. It's the house's influence, because she was a bit of a kind of influencer, a bit of a personality spokesperson for the house. And it just got really weird, you guys. So lots of real life shit going down with it. And then there's everything with the Annabelle doll possibly burning down plantations in the South. Like, it's crazy. But I'm getting off track, you guys. Let's dive on into the movie that started it all, really. The Conjuring, 2013, directed by James Wan and written by Chad and Corey Hayes. They're a brother duo pair. They also wrote the House of Wax remake, which... Sorry, I love that movie. I love that movie. I know, highly contested. Some people think it's a piece of garbage. I'll hear you on that. I just love it. Produced by New Line Cinema and distributed by Warner Bros. The budget was $20 million. That's a lot. The box office, $319.5 million. This became such a massive franchise. And I know that, like, those numbers are, like, measly, especially when you compare it to, like, a lot of what was coming out at the time. Really big movies, a lot of superhero and action movies. And it came out in the summer, which was kind of not a popular time for horror movies to come out. And it just kind of took people by storm, became the talk of moviegoers. I know when it came out, I was there 3 times over like 3 different weekends to watch it. So like it had an impact. It did. And I think while it didn't necessarily bring new tropes to us for like a good haunting movie, it brought new scares, new characters, and just a new storyline for us to really sink our teeth into. And I think it did that well. So let's dive on into it, guys. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren work to help a family terrorized by a dark presence in their farmhouse. Vera Farmiga plays Lorraine Warren, and she now is like the front woman of a rock band, like a punk rock band. There are videos of her performing in basements. I just adore her. She's so badass. Patrick Wilson plays Ed Warren, and he was also dueling the roles in Insidious as well. I actually just watched those 2 after The Conjuring because I was like, ooh, might as well. And he was doing those simultaneously at the same time. 2 huge separate franchises. He's kind of dope. Sterling Jarens plays Judy Warren, and Judy is a real person too. I thought they had a son. I guess I was wrong on that, but no, Judy is a real person. Shannon Cook plays Drew Thomas. Joseph Bashara is Bathsheba, and we'll talk about Bathsheba too. We will. Joey King is Christine Perrin. Lily Taylor is Caroline Perrin. Steve Coulter is Father Gordon. Ron Livingston plays Roger Perrin. Mackenzie Foy is Cindy Perrin. Kyla Deaver is April Perrin. And Haley McFarland is Nancy Perrin. Now, I do like that we get such a large family and it's all girls. It's not something that we get a lot in horror, you know? Not that it's like sorority vibes, but like just that family dynamic of a house full of young women, the mother, and then just the father who's having all of these things happen to him too. But something tells me in a very different way. He perceives it in a very different way than the girls do. It's a very interesting family dynamic. I also I watched some documentary stuff on it, and in Screaming and Conjuring, the resurrection and unstoppable rise of the modern horror movie by Clark Collis, I recommend this one, guys. Talks specifically about how James Wan wanted to focus on a larger family, but also within that stay true to the story. I mean, it does kind of stay true to the story that Ed and Lorraine tell, but even the accounts written by Andrea Perrin in her book, and this is part of a triple book series. However, in House of Darkness, House of Light, Volume 1, that's where it heavily talks about the actual experiences that the family had, and there is a chapter on And there is a chapter on Bathsheba as well. And we haven't introduced Bathsheba's character, so we're not going to dive into all that just yet. But let's dive on in, you guys. I'm excited. And if you wanted to kind of follow along a little bit with the Ed and Lorraine books, these are available relatively cheap online. And The Demonologist is the one that has, honestly, like, they have a little bit of each story in all of the books. Just kind of copy and paste it around a bit. It's a little skeevy if you ask me. But mainly the first two movies, anything talked about, like Annabelle and then the Edinburgh, is that, I don't think that's the right town. The one over in England as well is in this book too. So yeah, they do have their own little like scary stories. In 1968, renowned demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren investigate the Annabelle case, in which friends Debbie and Camilla have a possessed doll.
It started out small, like a hand or a leg was in a different position.
I don't want to get too into like the Hollywood versus reality of it all, but y'all know Annabelle is really a Raggedy Ann. It came down to patent purposes that they couldn't use a Raggedy Ann doll. It already exists, is already owned and trademarked and everything, you know what I mean? So they had to create something, and they just kind of went with your classic, very freaking creepy doll. They allowed a spirit who claimed to be a 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins to possess the doll.
She was lonely and took a liking to my doll. All she wanted was to be friends.
And the hauntings became increasingly disturbing. Love this as a first like fright into the Conjuring universe, and it also establishes a character that truly has nothing to do with fucking anything. In this movie at least, but establishes it for a later thing. And I get it. James Wan claims that like it wasn't on purpose. Girl, bye. The Warrens explained that the doll was never possessed. It was only a conduit for a demonic spirit whose goal was to possess one of the friends. And I do like the scares that we get in this first segment. It's a great kind of opener, and I think a lot of great horror movies out there have a strong opening scare, and this doesn't give anything away to the story that we're about to experience, but it does add to kind of the mystique and I think emotional kind of ethos of Ed and Lorraine's characters.
Well, we've been called demonologists. It's one name for us. Ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
Kooks. But we prefer to be known simply as Ed and Lorraine Warren.
In 1971, Caroline and Roger Perrin move into a dilapidated old farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, with their 5 daughters.
So, do I get to pick my own room, or do I have no choice in that either?
During the first day, the family moves in smoothly, except for the dog, who refuses to come into the house. Now, warning, the dog does die. You don't see anything, but the dog does die. It's a plot point. That night, the children play a game called Hide and Clap.
Second clap.
This is such a brilliant thing to establish with the audience. You know this is going to be used against us at some point. That's, I think, part of the James Wan cliches. But I like it. While playing, one of the daughters finds the boarded up entrance to a cellar.
Clap.
After Roger inspects the basement with a match,
Roger? What do you see down there?
the family goes to bed. Caroline expresses concern because the dog is barking outside,
Couldn't get her to come inside.
I can't leave her out there.
and one of the daughters feels someone pulling at her feet.
And there was this really funky smell in my bedroom last night. It reeked like something died.
Is it still there?
No.
Problem solved.
Joey King put through it in this movie, okay? And it just, the environment of this, that's one thing that is talked about in a companion to the horror film, helps us digest every aspect to a horror movie, and sound design and environment is so huge. And it's some things that we kind of tend to overlook sometimes. The way that The Conjuring, even in its music, it utilizes it more to establish dread. Like, it's such a heavy emotional cue. I think it gets a little sloppy, come like The Nun and whatnot. That's when you're starting to get like spooky demon and monster noises. Like, it's a bit much. But in this first movie, it's chef's kiss. In the morning, Caroline wakes up with a mysterious bruise, and their dog Sadie is found dead. Over the next couple of days, various paranormal activities occur. Doors open and close seemingly by themselves, and Caroline hears clapping when nobody is there.
Third clap.
That fucking clapping scene when she's playing with them during the day and hears it, and it like misleads her away from her children.
You weren't even warm, Mom. I was in Christine and Nancy's room.
Or when she's in the cellar. I mean, yeah, we haven't gotten to that yet, but when she's in the cellar and those hands just behind her. Oh! I know it seems so cheesy and like corny now, but at the time, dude, this was really like a resurgence, just a reimagination of what a haunted house story could be, At night, their young daughter Cindy sleepwalks into the eldest daughter's bedroom, where she bangs her head repeatedly against an old wardrobe. The activity culminates in the eldest daughter being attacked by a spirit that looks like an elderly woman.
God damn it, tell me what's going on here!
Caroline seeks the help of Ed and Lorraine Warren, noted paranormal investigators,
It after you was possessed. Spoke some of the best Latin I'd ever heard.
to validate their concerns.
I'm so afraid this thing wants to hurt us.
Lorraine senses that a particular malevolent spirit has latched onto the family. They conduct an initial investigation.
Well, rancid smells could indicate some type of demonic activity.
And conclude they should get involved. Explaining to the parent family that the house may require an exorcism.
Exorcism?
However, this cannot be done without further evidence and authorization from the Catholic Church. So we haven't gotten into it yet, but this is along the lines of where we start to learn about Bathsheba. Bathsheba Sherman was a real person, and there is some controversy revolving around her name. However, she was not ever accused of being a witch. And the worst thing that happened was a child did die under her watch. Who knows? Who knows? She was put to trial and found not guilty. So I don't know. It was a long time ago. So, medical means and whatnot, a lot different back then. But it feels rooted in like the monstrous feminine, seeing the woman as witch kind of motive, which is rooted in misogyny mainly. However, also in the physical depictions rooted in anti-Semitism. And then also the historical context of what witches were, a very notable kind of trope within witch lore is like they eat and kill babies. Let's think about it. Let's reduce it, water it down a bit, because that's more so probably what was actually happening back then, how these legends came to be. Witches were early medicinal women, but they provided healthcare, essentially. Very early healthcare, but still healthcare. And they had a knowledge that related to the earth and the human functions. And if we reduce it, the idea of like witches kill babies, what do we think that could be? Maybe early forms of birth control, early abortions, who knows? However, the trope of the witch, and I think how Bathsheba is personified in this movie, is kind of rooted in that same troublesome, lore behind it all. And we can talk about that a little more in the Hollywood versus reality, because the Warrens really did a number on Bathsheba and her representation in this series. During the process of researching the house's history, Ed and Lorraine find out that the house belonged to an accused witch, Bathsheba. When Bathsheba's husband caught her sacrificing their week-old infant, she climbed to the top of a tree on the property, cursed all those who would take her land, and proclaimed her love for Satan before committing suicide. None of that happened. None of that happened. Just want to state that. This is followed by reports found of numerous murders and suicides in houses that have since been built upon the property. So it's supposed to be like a full property thing. And even though there is a full chapter on Bathsheba in Andrea Perron's account of her early life in that house, it talks about her in a very different way, and it talks about the spirits and the environment of this house in a very different way. And I find it highly, highly interesting. She believed that like the house is part of some abnormality. There's like so many different time loops, time cycles that these spirits are like trapped in, and some are aware of the family's presence there and then others aren't. It's highly fascinating. Ed and Lorraine return to the house with a police officer and another paranormal investigator, Drew. They set up thermal cameras and alarm systems throughout the house in an attempt to prove the spirit of Bathsheba. For the first night, nothing happens.
Must have been a draft.
And the clocks do not stop at 3:07 a.m. The next day, they all eat breakfast together.
Oh, the house hasn't felt like this in a long time. I think the kids feel a lot safer with you around.
And Roger Perron thanks Ed Warren for doing what they can to help. Ed explains that with every exorcism they do, a little piece of his wife Lorraine is taken. And we do see a hesitation with Lorraine. I think with both of them, it starts off pretty early. I mean, it's just a part of their backstory. We're always going to be remembering back to this one specific case, but we don't quite know what it is yet. There's a lot of hints within this movie that it's like, oh, no, this is obviously going to be a franchise. I also like that they're kind of edged a little bit with the... Not to say it like that, but like edged a little by the ghost. Like the first night, not a damn thing happens. And I love that kind of is how like paranormal investigating, again, whether you believe in it or you don't, that's kind of how it goes, right? Like you go and nothing happens. I think that has to do with, not to get all woo, I think that has to do with like how a subject will always act differently if there's a observer there, whether they know they are watching or not. Things are always going to act differently when someone's watching. It's proven. During another night of investigation, nothing seems to happen until nightfall, when Cindy begins to sleepwalk again. While walking upstairs, thermal cameras observe a temperature drop around her as she enters into the wardrobe, whereupon the door slams shut behind her, and find a secret passage behind the wardrobe. After Cindy is taken out, Lorraine enters the wardrobe and falls through the floorboards down into the cellar. There, she sees the spirits of people whom Bathsheba has possessed, and realizes Bathsheba's purpose: to possess mothers and use them to kill their children.
Made me do it.
Again, slandering Bathsheba. However, they needed a villain for this movie. And just like the hanging motifs in this movie, that was something that terrified me when I first watched this, was just the imagery of like hanging feet swinging. It's used a lot in this, and it's very, very unsettling. After Lorraine escapes the cellar, she and Ed take their evidence to Father Gordon.
Nancy?
To organize an exorcism while the Perron family takes refuge at a hotel. I mean, smartest family ever. They got the hell out of there. Their relief is interrupted when Caroline suddenly drives back to the house with two of the daughters. Ed and Lorraine rush to the house, where they find Roger and the police officer struggling with Caroline as she tries to stab one of her daughters with a pair of scissors. This is a very unsettling scene, and Caroline, throughout the possession, how kind of deformed a little she becomes, but very almost Bathsheba-esque. We haven't gotten to it yet, but that final scene of her looking up through the light in the floorboards terrified me. Why is she so disturbing? But like, you really feel for this mother-daughter relationship that is deteriorating. And they do make note that, like, spirits love to attach themselves to families in difficult times. That's something that's explored more in the second movie as well. I think maybe that could be like, oh, how convenient, but also, you know, it's a stressful time. You're moving into a new house. How often is that how a ghost story starts? I mean, even Amityville, which is discussed and investigated by the Warrens as well. Even Amityville is about a family that moves into a new house with a troublesome past. Ed suggests they call the priest, but Lorraine reminds him that the priest is too far away, forcing Ed to perform the exorcism himself. While the others hold the tormented Caroline down, Ed continues the exorcism. Caroline seemingly stops struggling, and for a brief moment it seems the exorcism was successful. Suddenly, her chair flips over, and she is held upside down. Another crazy moment, her underneath the sheet, just like it, and the way it tears open, like she is Bathsheba in that moment. And after a few tense moments, she is released onto the ground. Ed rushes over to Caroline and tells the demon to leave her body. Caroline slowly turns to Ed and said, "She's already gone."
And now you're all gonna die.
Meanwhile, Drew finds April hiding under the floorboards in the kitchen.
She's under the house, under the kitchen!
He yells down the cellar that he found her, and this alerts the demon inside Caroline, and she dashes up cellar stairs to find April in order to complete the sacrifice.
Bathsheba!
Just the frenzy that the spirit Caroline is showing just to get to the daughter. It's very disturbing, and I mean, it plays into kind of like now we will begin to talk about the religious propaganda in this movie as we continue along. I do think it started to serve a bit of a purpose, and I think it started there anyways. I mean, for a lot of people, it was very, very disturbing to see a mother show such hatred towards their child, but for a lot of people, that's also real life horror. So I think it's starts to play on very kind of, don't get mad at me, heteronormative like fears based around family. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but it's something that I became wary of the more that this franchise continued on. I wouldn't say that the other, well, no, they definitely do. I mean, Annabelle, it's like the pregnant wife and her new husband, like there's always a sense of heteronormativity within a Conjuring film. I mean, even The Nun. Ed and Lorraine Warren, along with Roger, rush up the stairs after her in order to stop her from going through with it.
You can't give in! Yeah!
This is such a disturbing scene, and for what reason?
You said they meant the world to you.
She tells Caroline to remember how much her family means to her, and to remember what she told her about how special they were to her, and that they mean the world to her. Again, this kind of seems like a personal message to any frustrated mom out there of just like, remember how worth it is for you. Like, right? This seems to get through to Caroline as her face relaxes and her breathing returns to normal. The demonic presence in her eyes seems to fade and she puts April down. The scene changes to Caroline being helped out of the front door to a now sunny morning. As she crosses from threshold of the door into the sunlight, the bruises on her skin fade away and she returns to her normal self. Again, we can fully recognize the Conjuring films are cheesy. They are cheesy. Kind of in the best way. Roger and Caroline rejoice with their family in the front yard, embracing one another, knowing that it's finally over. That is not true too. Andrea Perron confirms the Warrens didn't do shit. They came in, they disturbed it and made it worse and then dipped out. And it never stopped. Even to this day, there are still reports in the house. So what did they do? Fuck all, it seems. And Carolyn never attacked her daughter. It never became like that. You know what I mean? So, is it dramatized for Hollywood? Abso-fucking-lutely. Is it still an enjoyable story if you remove it from that? Yeah. But we will honor both sides of it later. After they ward off the demon at the Perron household, the Warrens return to their home. The scene cuts to Ed Warren entering his room of possessed objects and artifacts. He places the old music box from the house on an empty space on a shelf. Lorraine enters the room and they leave together. After a few seconds, the music box starts to play on its own and the camera slowly pans back to the box. The screen cuts to black and the credits roll. And I mean, even in the artifacts, like, there's just so many good opportunities for jump scares in this movie. Now, I maybe should have said this at the beginning. If you're not a fan of, like, kind of cheap jump scares, I would say the Conjuring universe as a whole is not for you. It relies heavily on that. But there are moments wherein it gets to a disturbing place, but without the use of jump scares. And that's what I like about it. However, we are going to see that it kind of slowly becomes more of a just continuing love story between Ed and Lorraine. I mean, if you were to believe these movies entirely, you would think this is the most perfect couple that ever fucking existed. And maybe they were. You know, scamming with each other. Who knows? But yeah. So, like I said, guys, if you want to learn more about the Perron family haunting, you can read The Demonologist from Ed and Lorraine Warren, or check out the House of Darkness, House of Light series from Andrea Perron. I've had this book a while, actually. So I highly recommend checking it out. I do. And yeah, like I said, as long as we stay like wary or cautious of like the tropes and whatnot that we're allowing ourselves to be led down, I think it's okay that we enjoy the movie for what it is. Even if, like, you know, the Warrens, controversial at best, I would say. But we'll get into that eventually, guys. Thank you so much for tuning on in. I hope everyone enjoyed. Let me know what you think about the series in general, the Conjuring universe as a whole, and let me know your thoughts on the Warrens. They're an interesting duo. Thank you so much, you guys. I really do appreciate y'all. Hope everyone's having a lovely week, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care.